All right, so hello everybody that's tuning in. I'm Nell Middlestead. I'm the Outreach Coordinator. I'm so excited to welcome you to our event. I'd first like to thank the Field family for their generous endowment that has made the Teen Author Series possible, and it's the whole reason we're here today. So I'm very grateful to them. Before I introduce our guest, I'm first just going to run through how this event is going to go. We're going to start with Gabby Rivera's book talk and presentation, which will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have the Q&A that follows, which will also be about 30 minutes. So, born in the Bronx and graduating from Goucher College, Gabby Rivera is a queer Puerto Rican author. She has made a name for herself not only as an incredible writer, poet, and podcast host, but she's also the first Latina to write for Marvel Comics with her solo series America, about America Chavez, queer, heavy-hitting superhero powerhouse. In 2019, she also published her BB Free, her first original comic series. Rivera's first novel, Juliet Takes a Breath, which we are talking about today, has reached critical acclaim and has been called ... outstanding by none other than Roxane Gay. An LGBTQ youth advocate and public speaker, Gabby Rivera now lives and works in California. I'm incredibly honored to welcome Gabby Rivera to the Free Library of Philadelphia's Teen Author Series. Gabby, please take it away.
Hello, Philadelphia. As Nell said, my name is Gabby Rivera. I am a queer Latinx author from the Bronx, now living in California. I am so happy to be here with all of you. Woo, what a time we are living in. I just want to give a lot of good, loving energy to all of you, all the students in these times with the Zoom classes and like all this pandemic political energy, right? Like, you are loved, you are seen, you are whole. Thank you for being here. I know it is not easy, but you are pushing through, you are making it happen, and you are here in community with us today. So I am super thankful for that. And yeah, I just wanted to like give an offering of thanks. Also, I would like to quickly just say that I have been aware of the ongoing issues with the Concerned Black Workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia group. And so I want to say that I stand in solidarity with them, with the Concerned Black Workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia, who are advocating for safe and equitable and anti-racist working conditions. So I want to just give a lot of love and energy to all the Black people working there and all the Black students that are here with us. Know that you always have the right to protest any conditions that are unfair to you, no matter what. Know that there are people that will always support your protest and will stand in solidarity with you. Yeah, so that's good. Hello, everybody. Let's get to it, right? Like, let's breathe, let's come in and let's talk about writing queer Latinx joy and radical creativity. This is me. This is me, and I am standing in front of a beautiful, funky mural in Washington Heights in Manhattan. And next to me, you see the words radical creativity, queer Latinx joy. Now, I think radical creativity is super broad and open. You can have your own interpretations of that. To me, that just means like, go for it. Whether you're a dancer, a singer, a painter, you must just spread your art and your vibes everywhere. And then the other words, right? Queer Latinx joy. Let's dive into those. Those words are like the foundation of my art and my writing and what I do. Now, I'm also a word nerd, right? So I also like to really unpack what words mean and what power they hold. So for me, the first word there is queer, right? Queer. Queer is a word that has often been used to hurt people. You're a queer. Oh, don't talk to her. She's queer. Like, it's been used to marginalize people, make fun of people, attack somebody's like femininity or other ways of being, right? Attack somebody's sexuality, make them feel small. But like for me, my queerness, right? No one can ever hurt me, queerness is my gift from the universe, right? The universe was like, when we create Gabby Rivera, we're gonna make sure that she's super queer because she is gonna need all the strength to change the world around her and to change the world that she inhabits. Queerness goes beyond my like sexuality, and it is part of my politics, my reckoning, my desire to always look at the world and be like, nope, this isn't right. Nope, I'm not with this white supremacy. Nope, we are not going to be racist. No, I don't have time for your transphobia, your homophobia. We are the ones that create culture. We are the ones that make the world a better place. So my queerness is a gift. And in everything that I write and share, queerness is normal, it is natural, it is abundant, it is in every character in a lot of different ways. I am unafraid. And I feel like, and I hope that if there, for all the queer kids listening right now, if ever you feel uncomfortable about that, know that it is also your super strength. And then the other word, Latinx, you know, Latinx is a really complicated word. I'm sure if you've heard of it, you must have some understanding. If you've never heard of it, it is a gender neutral term for Latino, Latina. But also, Latinx is a term that allows the government to classify us, right? Because Latinx doesn't really mean anything. There's no country of Latinx, right? It means you're from Peru or Colombia or Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, or you're Mexican or you're Salvadorian, Nicaraguan, and now you live here because usually the US messed up your country or islands and your people can't function on their place of origin anymore because there's no jobs. So they migrated to the United States. And because we kind of speak Spanish and a lot of us eat rice and beans and a whole bunch of other similar characteristics that we share, they group us into Latinx. So the term itself doesn't really mean anything. It's just like a classification. But now, because we're all here, I'm Puerto Rican, right? Because we're all here and we are racialized by the US and we are categorized in this way, now there is this identity forming. And I'm just really curious about that identity. What does that mean? We aren't just one lump of people. We are a multitude of folks from all different countries with all sorts of like different historical and cultural experiences. And so for me, as a little like queer Puerto Rican from the Bronx, I write about that. I write about my journey, my understanding of my ethnic heritage and how it relates to the US and how it relates to my life. And then when it comes to joy, joy can be one of those things that like feels super corny, right? Like nobody's walking around like, oh, look at me, I'm so joyful. Well, I walk around like that. But when I was like younger, I would have thought that was so corny. But you know, like real talk, I'm sure so many of you see the way that like white supremacy and corrupt politicians really want us to be afraid. They want us to be afraid of each other. They want us to move out of fear. They want us to behave. They don't want us in the street protesting for our rights. They want us to take what they say at face value about our histories, about slavery, about Native Americans, about the foundations of the United States without question. They don't care about our joy. That is a very specific tactic that they use, especially in the media, to control what we do. And I don't have energy for that. And I push that away. Because when I'm with Black and Brown and people of color, we focus on our joy. We heal each other. It's us that's paying each other's GoFundMes. It's us that's taking caravans of food and water to migrant folks, to people who have experienced hurricanes. We are the community and protectors. and we get to live in our joy. We do. They cannot take that from us. They don't have access to our joy. It is for us to build and claim, right? And so, yeah, like, that's why I'm happy, because I don't have all that hate in my heart, and I don't have the desire to harm others. So me and my little queer Latinx joy are over here in front of murals like this, writing wild stories for all of you. And you know, speaking of like our histories and our culture, I always roll it back to my grandmothers. These are my grandmas right here. Like, they have both since passed away. So even just seeing them, like, I get filled with a lot of emotion. And to me, they represent so much that is right and so much that is wrong with the American dream. And I bring up the American dream, right? Because if you are like somebody who has had to leave their homeland to come to the United States, or you're second generation or first generation because your family had to leave where they were from to come to the United States, a lot of them have an idea of the American dream, right? Like, that's why we come here. Land of the free, home of the brave, you know? So on the right, the little like chubbier grandma, the one that I definitely take after, her name is Carmen. And then on the left is my grandma Amalia. And they both left Puerto Rico to come to the United States for a better life. Now, my grandma Carmen did not speak English. She was not able to assimilate into like white America. She looks very much Puerto Rican. She looks very much like an ethnic Latina woman. And so the only jobs that she was able to get were in factories, working with heavy dyes and poor ventilation, making beautiful dresses for rich white women at like JCPenney and like all the department stores. And she was raising 5 kids, right, in the Bronx. She did her best, but it was definitely a struggle. My grandma on the left, Amalia, she was just so witty, so savvy, right? She picked up English quick. She changed her name from Amalia to Emily so that white people could pronounce it better and she could get those jobs. And because of that and her desire to assimilate into the American dream, she was able to work her way up and get an education and like have that house and like secure that stability and that like moving up in the world in a whole new country. You know, unfortunately for my grandmother Carmen, because of the conditions that she worked in, when she turned 54, she got an accelerated form of cancer and she passed away. And I know that it is because of the working conditions and her inability to have access to like really good healthcare and all these other conditions of coming to the US and being an other, right? Impacted her quality of life. But in her, I also saw that like hard work and determination. In her, I also saw that fierce desire to find a better life. So I always think of her when I am writing. And my grandma Amalia, she lived a much longer life, had beautiful homes, beautiful family, right? Like my grandma Amalia was like pretty much like classy and elegant, like Blanche Devereaux. And she just always told me, even in her struggle, even when she was like a washerwoman and a cleaning woman, she always told me that I had to find happiness and joy in what I do, because otherwise it's not worth it. And like, we get a lot of stories, especially about ethnic families, where our happiness and our joy isn't prioritized. It's like, go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer, that's it, get married. Who cares about what you really want to do? Like, you need to make money and you need to survive. And while to a certain degree, those narratives are important too. And that kind of love is important. It's essential for me as a storyteller, especially when I'm talking to all of you young people, to remind you that our ancestors also want us to be happy. And they also want us to be deeply rooted in our joy. And so, listen, watching my two grandmas do their thing, and my parents, I had two little cute Puerto Rican parents, a teacher and a salesman, just doing their little thing, making a beautiful life for themselves. And as my understanding of who I am changed, as I learned that I liked girls as a teenager, as I learned that like I might be gay, as my presentation shifted from being a pretty girl to a butch lesbian, butch ass. So much shifted in my life. I didn't know if I would be able to have a good life. Everybody loves lesbians until they show up looking like me, you know, like that's a fact. That's a fact, right? Like after college, I was just struggling. How come I wasn't going to be able to live that life like my grandmas and my mom and dad? Like, was my gender presentation really going to hold me back? Is being a lesbian, a butch lesbian, really going to stop me from being able to live a good life? I was so scared and so lost, and the realities were intense. I couldn't find a job. People weren't hiring me. I was trapped, and I felt like I was dying inside when I tried to conform to their dress standards, when I tried to wear women's suits or dresses. Like, I felt like everything in me was crumbling. And we didn't have words back then like gender dysphoria or even the concept of your gender presentation. I just thought I was bugging. I thought I was losing my mind. And so like I just did what I always did, you know, I just wrote my little stories. I just wrote and I made friends with other writers. And I just am so thankful that, again, my family came through with the support. My mom and dad like saw how hard I was working to try to find a job. They saw how hard I was working, even when I got unemployed, and they were like, finish your book. You can stay here with us. Just finish your book. And they like really believed in this, and they really believed in me. And this book was like my only way out in a lot of respects. I was like, when I was writing it in my mom's basement as an unemployed, depressed lesbian, before there was gay marriage, before there was Twitter, before there was, you know, artists like Troye Sivan and like other folks that are out, like Lil Nas X and folks like that. Before that, there was almost nobody, maybe Ellen. But even then, you couldn't say the word lesbian out loud in my house, you know? I just had to believe. I was asking God, like, please give me one opportunity. Please let this book give me a chance at a good quality of life. And yo, it did. It did. It doesn't matter what they say. You follow your dreams, because this is me. After my book, I indie published that book by myself, right? I was like a rapper with a mixtape. I was selling that book. If you had a gay cousin, I was shipping that book to your gay cousin. I was in the street giving people copies of my book, sending it, calling libraries, connecting with librarians on the internet just to tell them about my book. And last year, Penguin Random House, one of the like top 5 book publishers in the country, reached out to me to republish my book. That was wild. This is me like astonished that I got a little poster of my book all on my own, right? Like not, you know, with support of my family, but me writing my story in my words with my slang, my neighborhood, like not chasing after anybody, I didn't take this book and try to bring it to rich white people. I took this book and gave it to my friends, to my cousins, to my communities, to the dykes, to the fat people, to everybody that has been ostracized, you know? And look what we got. All right, and this book, man, I prayed for one opportunity. Y'all, the universe just opened itself wide open for me. This opportunity led the folks at Marvel Comics to reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to write for their character, America Chavez. America Chavez. Oh, I look pink now. America Chavez already existed. She was already part of the Marvel universe. She was a fierce Latina from outer space who was so strong she could punch portals into other dimensions. She was already a queer kin because she had two moms. She had a lot of richness in her story. And so when I was thinking about what I was going to write for her, I knew that I wanted to give her something that a lot of us, kids or people from the diaspora, immigrant folks, people of different ethnicities, what I wish I always had was like a portal into the past where I could see exactly what happened to my people without any lies from the dominant group, right? Like if it was the Spaniards conquering Puerto Rico in like the 1500s, I want to see that. I want to know what really happened to the Taínos. I want to know what happened when the Plymouth Rock happened here. Were they really friendly to the native people? Probably not. I wish I could see it. Because knowing that truth helps us be stronger in ourselves. And that's why they lie about our histories all the time. So with America Chavez, look at her. Look at her. Look at her, right? I gave her an abuela. You know I'm obsessed with grandmas. I gave her an abuela, a fierce luchador grandma. And that grandma brought her to the ancestral plane because I wanted America Chavez to see the history of her people in the skies, no BS and no lies, so that she would know how great her people were, so that she would know the pain that they experienced and nobody could sugarcoat it. No one could write in the history books, oh, the slaves were happy. That's not real. That is white supremacy. That is the controlling forces of any nation trying to dictate what you know about what really happened. That don't fly here. And so this is an act of love. This panel here, like she's a Latina from outer space. I gave her a planet called Planeta Fuertona. So planet of the strong women or the bad bees, if you know what I mean. And this moment is so important. So many of us don't have that direct access. We've either lost our grandparents or maybe there's a language barrier and we can't connect with them about their journeys. But in this moment, America Chavez was able to learn that truth and find her healing as she deserved. And also, when I'm writing my stories, and when I'm looking around, listen, I'm from New York, right? And in 59th Street is this big, giant statue to Columbus, right? Christopher Columbus. There's water, there's fountains, there's light. And every time I walk by there, I'm like, look at this, man. We got a whole freaking fountain to one of the worst colonizing, pillaging, rude, nasty, murdering men that ever existed. What is this in a city full of immigrants? I do not have time for these monuments and these statues and these streets named after slave owners. I hate the fact that there are slave owners on our money as if that's something to be proud of. And so when it comes to writing my stories, I do not put their heroes in my stories. Their heroes do not serve me. They do not serve us. And I make it a point to put folks like Sonia Sotomayor, the first Puerto Rican Supreme Court justice to be appointed to the Supreme Court by Obama. And when I was struggling to write my book, I was reading her memoir, which is, her book about her life. And I felt hope. Like, she grew up like a couple of blocks from my parents. She, she has diabetes. She grew up with like all sorts of different struggles, and still she made it, right? She worked on herself. She believed in herself. So when America Chavez had to go to college, I was like, she's going to Sotomayor University. And we also have like Neil deGrasse Tyson, my puppy's here. We also have Neil deGrasse Tyson science dorms. So whenever you're telling your stories, weave in your heroes. You don't owe their heroes nothing. You are essentially, when you do that, you are leaving like breadcrumbs for other kids, for other people to learn about the folks that you respect. Hi, Mama. Hi, Cheeky. Come here, say hi. Look at this dog. Hi, she's a big girl. And when you do that, you change the course of like your whole history. Because I never thought in a million years that the justice would write to me, would ever know my work. And that literally cemented in a lot of ways that what I'm doing is valuable. What I'm doing changes the future. As a queer person, I exist in the past, the present, and the future. Everything I do, I am thinking of who is coming next. You can make all the magic in your life. You can make all the changes in your life. You get to follow your own voice and create your own work. And let us all take a breath, right? In this moment, let's just inhale, exhale. At every point, I'm learning this, right? In my 20s, I was always stressed. I always thought everything was the end of the world. I was high strung. I had a temper because I was so mad at everything, at my body, at the world, at homophobia. I was mad at racism. I was mad at sexism and fat phobia. I was just in a constant rage. It is now that I'm realizing that rage doesn't serve me in the same way. That rage is me trying to fit into them. That rage is me thinking that folks like presidents and governors have any real authority over me and who I am, that is never going to be true. And I'm realizing now that I get to rest, that I get to daydream, that I must be joyful, that this life is for me to enjoy, that my people come from the Caribbean, so we get to worship the sun and the ocean. We must. This panel for America Chavez, she has just, even in the beauty of the ancestral plane, she saw that like at one point her grandmother abandoned her. She is fighting pretty much like corporate power entities at her school that want to take over and put cameras everywhere. She is fighting for all sorts of injustice. And in this moment, I was like, no, she's not going to be stressed out. She's not going to be rushing off to save someone. She is going to take a minute. She is going to rest and heal and take that time. And for women and for girls and feminine folks and non-binary folks, we must claim our rest and our time to let our brains like calm down and our spirits heal. We are always pushed to be the caretakers, especially if you're a girl. You are pushed to take care of everybody. You got to cook, you got to clean, you got to make sure that you call your brother to make sure that he remembers to do this. And you have to be the go-between, and you have to pick up your baby cousin from school, even though your older cousin is a guy, he don't have to do none of that. You always have more work to do. And now we get to put a stop to that. You get to say, no, I must rest. I must daydream. The sun is mine. The ocean is mine. I am of the galaxy. And so I created this for Marvel, right? And then because it belongs to Marvel, it's their property. But the opportunity I got to write for Marvel allowed me to create my own indie comic, BB Free, where I took two queer Puerto Rican teenagers and threw them on the adventure of a lifetime, an eco-divine adventure. They're filled with the spirit of Mother Nature, and they are healing the earth one wild journey at a time. And the foundation of BB Free. And I gotta say, got a lot of talking about BB Free to do, but the intention underneath BB is to make sure that all the queer kids of color have a place in the future. This comic is set 100 years in the future. No matter what, they will not get rid of us. They cannot erase us. We are here now, and we are here 200 years from now. And it is the wiggly bravery I got in this line. That is how I classify it. The universe is yours, and your wiggly bravery will guide you. Your connection to the ancestors will guide you. And as we wind down, right, it's not just joy that comes from storytelling. It's not just fantastical magic joy. This is real life joy. And one of the most important things about it is that it doesn't just come because you decide to join the party, right? When I think of joy, I think of, we march in the streets when a Black person has been murdered by police. We march in the streets when we lose our transgender family and our queer and lesbian family, like to harm, to violence. We are a people that are marching. We carry a lot of grief with us. And in that suffering, in that struggle, we build joy together. Like, don't come to the Pride Parade if you haven't shown up to the marches and the riots. You know what I mean? And so with my podcast, Joy Revolution, I talk to people in real life situations, everyday queer people, adults, people of color, about how we build and maintain joy in our everyday lives. Because it's work. It's not just like, oh, I got my latte, I'm joyful. It's like, no, you show up for your communities. You must push to make change in the world. That is how you tap into ancestral joy. That is what we're trying to build and share. And I know we can do it. I know we can do it all together. We are doing it. And I'm just so excited for, like, even in these times, I'm excited for the future and for the art and magic that we will all create together. Thank you for having me. Even with my puppy, oh my God, y'all, she just chewed up so much under my desk. Even with my puppy down there, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Quirky Rican. You can get Juliet Takes a Breath, my book. You can read BB Free for free, because that's what the work is for, to just give it out. And you can also listen to the Joy Revolution podcast on all podcasting platforms. Yeah, go Philly Free Library.
Thank you so much. That was so incredible. Thank you, Gabby. I wish I could have the whole room clap. It's the one bummer about having an on.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is that mural in Washington Heights? I feel like I've been there all the time and I haven't seen it.
It's in like the 160s in Broadway. It's like 160 or 159th or 162nd in Broadway, something like that.
So beautiful. I gotta check it out. Let's start in on this Q&A. We already have so many great questions.
Let's do it.
Dahlia's, she says, my mom is from Central America and I'm second generation on her side. My dad is white. I've always struggled with identity and still am. I have very light skin and am always labeled as white. Do you ever feel out of place or whitewashed?
This is an interesting conversation, and it's one that we need to have because there are white Latinos, there are white passing Latinx folks, and in those countries of origin, right? Like, let's say in Argentina or even in Mexico, you have like white folks, you have mestizos mixed, beige brown folks, and you have like black folks, right? And if your dad is white, um like you have to be able to claim that part of yourself and not be ashamed, because the shame is going to hold you back from doing good work. And we need white folks who are mixed or full on white to be able to say yes, and this is how I'm going to help, and this is how I'm going to show support, and this is the work that I'm going to do so that I don't uphold white supremacy. And for me, when it comes to Juliet Takes a Breath, I think the only time, I don't think I've ever been whitewashed. I don't get mistaken for white. I'm not like white passing. Um, I'm always either some sort of other or definitely viewed as like Latina. But I have light skin privilege, and I have learned along the way that like one of the one of the ways to like work with that and also against it is to keep the doors open. So I have an agent, right? And when it comes to my literary agent, when I send people her way or send people her work, Chiqui, Chiqui, stop it. I always am like, yo, I'm like sending her Black folks, I'm sending Black creators, Black artists, like other Latinx folks who may be undocumented. I'm always trying to like keep that door open and share my resources and my time. And when it comes to being whitewashed, I think with my book Juliet Takes a Breath, a lot of white women, the first thing they want to do is be like, oh my God, I'm like totally Harlow, like I feel so seen, like I cried. And I'm just like, okay, first of all, the book is completely about Juliet, a chubby brown Puerto Rican girl, so you can't tell me you love the book and completely bypass her. So I've definitely had to have those tough conversations and be like, okay, you centered yourself. Now go back and remember that it's not about you. Thank you for the question.
I thought that was so great. Funny because I always felt like Harlow turns into the villain, at some point. I can't believe so many people are claiming her. All right. This is from Stephanie at Egbert Samuel Fells High School. How was writing a queer character at Marvel different from writing your novel?
Well, thank you for that question. Well, writing for Marvel is like that character is their property, right? So a lot of my ideas, they ran with it, but I had to like keep it in the Marvel universe. All the ideas and characters that I created belong to Marvel. And like, so if they want to do a movie about her grandma, they can do that without ever including me. And that's fine. Like I knew what I was getting into. So that's the difference between being able to like write your own work versus taking on a project with a corporate entity. And the difference between writing a book and writing a comic is so wild. In a comic, you have to think in squares. You get like maybe one or two, maybe 10 words at most. And it's more about the image and the emotion, right? Like, yes, the journey is important, but each panel has to speak about like, it really has to get you. Each panel has to have a purpose. And in a book, you kind of like can take people on a journey in a different way. And so it's really just about learning the forms and doing your best within those frameworks.
This is from Emily at Tacony. I came out to my mom as trans, and she told me I wasn't allowed to bind until I'm 20, but it's really hard to get through the day with my chest. Do you have any advice to give?
Oh man, first of all, I just want to say that I hear that and I'm holding space with you. I'm so sorry that you aren't receiving the support that you deserve. What I'm going to say is like, what I always tell young people is there are communities for you, right? Like dig deep, whether it's virtual, it's got to be virtual now, but dig deep and find folks your age who are experiencing like the same body needs, right? And connect with them. When it comes to your body and binding, I really got to say, you have to do what's going to make you feel best when you wake up in the morning. And a lot of times on our journeys, we don't have to tell our parents all the things, especially if it's going to cause you harm, right? So with binding, there are things that you can't wear your binder all day long because you will hurt yourself. You can't wear the binder for like 12 hours every day, day after day. You will hurt yourself. So in any decision that you make, you got to be informed, find the right resources, have at least a few people in your corner that you can talk to that are going through the same thing you are, and make an informed decision so that you feel happy in your body, so that you can feel at peace. And there's so many, there's so many binder sharing, giving, regifting, like Instagrams and communities. So I think you'll be able to like find one that works for you, for sure. Yeah, that it's also like your mom is probably really afraid for you, and she doesn't really understand that she should be experiencing this with you right now and not putting it off till later. You are strong. It is your body. Make an informed decision. You're going to get through this.
So there are lots of questions about the cover of the book. Can you tell us what the process of the cover creation was like?
Yes. Well, so again, this was all me, right? Like I was indie published, which essentially means that some other publisher like hit the button to print out copies of the book, but I did all my promo, I did everything. And so I found my cover. They were gonna slap a cover on it. And I was like, no, I'm doing this. Listen, Christy Road, okay, you know Gabby Rivera, but you need to look up Christy Road. She's a queer punk Chicana artist, has the dope, and a punk rocker, right? She has the dopest artwork. When I was reading her work as a young person, I was floored. And so I reached out to her on a whim. And she was like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. That's what's up. Let's do it. We're Latinas, like we're queer. And I was like, Christy, do whatever you want. But if you want an idea, I think it should be like, you know, Latina with like her head shaved and put the title in it. And like one night, Christy came up with that design. And we threw it on the cover, like, yes. Nothing out there. There was no book with a cover like that. There was nothing that really spoke to like around the way girls, you know what I mean? Like, you know her. If you live in the Bronx, you know that girl. I'm sure even if you live in Atlanta or wherever you live, you know this girl. She lives in your neighborhood. And when the book was picked up by Penguin, I was like, we have to keep this. And we have to like work with Christy again, because when you are on the glow up, you have to bring your people with you. And like that cover is just so, like, that's part of the magic of the book too, is that cover.
That's so great. You had so much control. I love that.
You got to take it. You're not giving it. You have to take it.
This is from Doralis. I hope I'm saying that right. My parents don't accept me because I'm bisexual, and it's hard because people don't accept me, and it's hard to fit in. Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, listen, there's a whole there's a whole youth bi movement out there in the world. You are not alone. When I was running youth programs, we did a whole week called #ILoveBiself for all the like bi and bi-curious youth in the world. You are totally like worthy of love. You are loved. Listen, your parents, I don't know how old you are, but like parents get really afraid. You know, my mom, when I told her that I was a lesbian, it was like the end of the world. It took her like 10 years to like get through a lot of that fear and worry. It's now 20 years later. I came out at 18. I'm 38 years old now. And my mom is always like, Nana, how's it going? How's your girlfriend? I made a pride blanket. Look at the dog. Happy Pride. She's in rainbow. Like, my mom has done a complete 180. And so when I say when I say don't worry too much about what your parents think, it's not to dismiss them. It's not for you to put them out of your life, because that support and that love is so important. But you are allowed to make room just for yourself. You've already told them you're bi. You did the work. Now you get to just focus on you and what makes you whole and what makes you happy. They have to do their own work. Your parents have to meet you halfway, and you are not alone at all. There are so many young folks like you, and it's going to be great. I mean, being, again, it's your gift, right? All the pieces of you, being bi, being a girl, being all these different things, like those are your gifts. Hold on to them tight. Don't let nobody take them from you.
God, these are so great. What was the process like coordinating the story and the illustrations when creating a comic?
Okay, so again, I'm working with Marvel, right? They're like the top level of this. They're the the like big money comic place. So I would write my scripts, and then they would go to the artist. They would go to like Jen Bartle. They would go to Joe Quinones, and then they would make magic. And a lot of times with Marvel, it's so fast that I wouldn't get to like see the artwork before it was already put together. But the folks were so professional that it looked amazing. And in my favorite issue of America is issue number 7, is her origin story. And most of the artists in that are women. And Jen Bartle just created, like, imagine telling someone that you want them to draw the beginning of the universe where a black and brown spirit manifests a new planet. That's what I told her. And she made it happen, that I almost cried with how beautiful it was. That is incredible. And then on the flip side of it, make comics with your friends. All you need is a little, like, 5 panels, 5 squares. Draw whatever you want, write a little hilarious like quote, caption, talk about Zoom school, whatever it is, you're making comics. It's super easy and really fun.
It sounds so fun. That's wonderful. Let's see what we've got next. Okay, this is from Elijah. Since you are a famous writer, are you going to write more novels and comics, or do you think you'll never stop writing or do something else?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm definitely gonna keep going. This is my life, and you gotta listen. I'm 38 years old. I got a whole lot of life to live. I need to make sure that I'm chilling in my 70s. I've got, actually, up here is the beginnings of my second book. This is an editing wall. And the tape is like the beginning of the book to the end of the book. These are like what I want the chapters to be. Up here, I have my characters. So I'm always working. It's about offering, right? Like, I am thriving. I am alive. I survived my 20s. And so I want to make sure that my work is offering to all of you. I want all of you to live and survive and live well. And me doing my work, I believe in my heart, contributes to that. So I'm going to keep going, man. I'm going to keep going till I can't hold one of these anymore, till I can't talk, till I'm seeing my grandmas in the heavens. We got stories for days.
That's so great. Yeah, don't stop, please, for our benefit. We need you to keep. Why did you move to California? This question's from Alexis.
Listen, I lived in New York, the Bronx, Brooklyn, my whole life, 30 something years. I paid my dues to New York, to the BX. And you want to like see other places. And California, Bay Area, when I went here for a work trip, it was so queer. It was so brown, black, like it was so community forward. It was loving in a way that New York isn't sometimes. And I was just like, oh, I can breathe. I can breathe. And there's the beach right there. And so, yeah, here I am.
What do you do when you have writer's block?
Hold on one second. Cheeky. I yell at my dog is what I do. Hi, mama. When I have writer's block, I have had, listen, pandemic is no joke. I just want to give a lot of love to all the students who are putting in their work and focusing. That is so much. It is so hard. This pandemic has really brought out my writer's block, my feelings of like numbness and inability to focus. And during this time, I've just had to let myself experience that, talk it through, and then find little gentle ways to get back into the swing of things. Like find those moments to just write in my journal, not part of a story, not to hit a deadline, but just to write for me. In other times when I have writer's block, that's when you get to play. Like I have a projector, so I would throw up like a wild art documentary on my wall, and I'm playing this kind of music, and I've asked my brother if I could use his paints, and I'm painting something. I can't paint, but I'm painting something, and you let your mind wander and be stimulated by all these other things, and then the writing will come to you again. It always does.
Gabby, I just want to thank you so much for coming today. It was such a pleasure to have you, and to thank everyone that joined us and for your great questions. This was so
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Love you, Philadelphia Library. And Nell, good luck with librarian school.
Thank you. Good luck to yourself. Everyone stay safe and enjoy the holidays. Thanks.
Bye now.